Hello, everyone. Welcome on this beautiful Tuesday evening to a live webinar training. Thank you so much all for coming. Ooh, I hear a little feedback. I think we're good. Thanks everybody for coming. I already see that everyone is very active in the chat. So say hello, say where you're from. I already see that stuff flowing in. Tonight, we're going to be talking about drone mapping when it comes to construction engineering surveying. Now we say advanced. You don't have to be advanced to attend right here, but we're going to be talking about some of the differences between what would be more beginner and what would be advanced and what those advanced applications are used for. And so today we have Rut Patel with us of Voyager Industries. Rut, you can say hi, even though we'll give you a real intro in a bit here.
Hello, everyone.
Now, we were going to have Nate Howard on here, and he's still going to come and do a session for us. However, he texted me like a few hours ago and said, hey, I had to jump on a plane to go to Indiana because a lot of our GPS equipment is malfunctioning up there on a big project. So I'm really sorry he had to bail because he is the survey manager for a really large construction and engineering firm, and he manages a territory of like, I think it's 5 or 6 states that he's sort of the top person for. So he was apologetic he can't be here. However, I talked to him on the phone like less than an hour ago, and I got a bunch of notes from him on stuff that I wanted him to share so I can sort of regurgitate and just communicate what he wanted to share with you when it came to some of the things we were talking about. But he said I can do Thursday night at 8:30 Eastern time. He's like, people can come on, they can ask me anything they want. We can just have a whole powwow session and I can hang out and we can dive into that. So if you do want to hear from Nate Howard, he will be back on Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. We'll send out an email about that, inviting people to it. But I just wanted to let you know, unfortunately, Nate cannot be here with us tonight, but I do have some information with me that he wanted to share with you all. So I can understand that his full-time job comes first over helping us out with a webinar. So, all right. Yeah, I know. It's kind of like, hey, well, maybe it works out better. We'll get a whole other session with Nate Howard. He's got a lot of experience. You'll see his bio here in a minute. It's in our presentation. So I am going to pull this up. Can you all see this? It's my little presentation. You know, I like to do these. If you've ever been on here before, you know I like to do these. I can write on these, and it helps us sort of learn together, okay? I'm curious. For those of you who are here, were you already following Drone Launch Academy? Do you know who we are? Or were you just like, you saw an ad and you decided to show up this evening? Let us know kind of where you're at. And there's usually a tiny delay here in the stream, so it might take a sec for people to chime in. While you're doing that, I've got my normal cold brew. It's usually my practice before webinars. I go prep. I go to Starbucks. I get a cold brew, knock everything out, come back, we jump on. Got a lot of people on the email list following. Oh, 2021. All right. Trinidad and Tobago, very far away. Already knew. Okay, got a couple first timers, but mostly people have been following for a while. Some people have seen an ad. Okay, great. Well, we're happy you're here. I always just like to know how people find us and if they're new. I don't want to assume everybody knows about Drone Launch Academy, so I can give a little bit of background and in context where we're at. So, sorry if you've seen this slide before, if you've been on other trainings, but if you don't know who I am, my name is David Young. I founded this company, Drone Launch Academy. Started it back in 2016. So we're actually going on 9 years. I got into the drone industry about 2015. I've been in aviation since 2007, off and on. So 9 years in the drone industry, almost a decade. I say Drone Launch Academy has trained because our method is we partner with other really good instructors to bring them in to teach things. And so we've had over 50,000 students, roughly 52,414 as of earlier today, go through one of our sign up for training courses, paid training courses, not like these aren't all freebie stuff. And I think that's really great. I think it's really cool that people are improving their skills learning. About me, I have my advanced ground instructor certificate, my private pilot certificate, even though I do not like flying small planes anymore. I got that about 2007. And then my remote pilot certificate for drones. I got that like right when it came out, obviously in 2016, because we have a prep course for it. So I teach a little bit in the mapping courses, and I teach a lot in the Part 107 prep courses, is where you may have seen my face before. So that's about me. My main skill, I would say, is finding other people who are really good at what they do and convincing them to come on and help teach other people So because I want people who are doing this on a day in and day out basis. I may know a lot about it and I get to use these drones and do cool projects from time to time, but I want people who are every day living and breathing this stuff. So they're like top tier knowledge. So that's why we have Root here, and that's why I got Nate. So that's about me. Nate, who's not here, this is what he looks like. He is a survey manager at Kiewit. If you're not familiar with Kiewit, it is one of the top 5 largest construction and engineering firms, maybe in North America. They're massive. I mean, massive. I think when I looked, it was like 17 billion in revenue, something like that. They're huge. So Nate is a survey manager. He's, like I said, he's in charge of several different states on all of the survey controls. He's one of a few drone subject matter experts for them. He's kind of helps out with their drone program. So he's a key part in implementing drones into all of the stuff they do in construction and engineering. They do tons of like highway stuff. They do mining. They do quarries. They do bridges. They do all sorts of stuff. And he's got 25 years of experience in this. He's done CAD stuff, 3D modeling. He's a certified survey technician, like super smart guy, really humble, really great. Bummed he can't be here, but come back Thursday to hear more from Nate, and I'll share what he's going to share or what he wanted me to share in a minute. All right, Root. Maybe Root, you can do your own intro. Fire away, my friend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Root. I'm actually friends with David, and he invited me here, so I'm very excited to be here. I'm the CEO of Voyager Industries. I've been in this industry for about 12 years. I started at a very young age, very beginning of the industry. I started with just making drones. That was my main interest, and the passion for aviation led me into this many different industry using drones. And I've been doing this since 2017 professionally, but I've been making drones since I was in 16, 17. That time I was in India. When I turned 19, I had the opportunity to move to America. And ever since I've been doing this, I had the opportunity to working all over America, doing all kind of different projects. Basically, any project you can think about using drones, from surveying to mapping to inspecting, creating digital twins, creating, doing a lot of roof inspection, power line inspection, anything you name of. I probably have done it. We did about 20. The number is too high. I don't remember exactly how many projects we did, but a lot of projects related to engineering and inspection and digital twins. And I'm very excited to be here. And thank you, David, for having me here.
Yeah. And I want to say one of the coolest things that Root is doing right now, which is what he's going to share with you in a bit, is how drones are specifically being used in land surveying. So right now he is really locked in with a specific survey company here in Central Florida. They're like, hey, we know drones are the future. We want to get this going, but we don't know what we're doing. So they brought Root in. He's been working with them for several months, doing all of their projects for them with the drone, with the intent that one day they can build their own drone program and kind of take that over. So he's sort of like helping them build that up from the inside out. And he's done really cool projects with LiDAR, all these different things. And then from that, other consulting opportunities have opened up with, again, engineering firms doing similar work. So he's had a really nice inside look at specifically how land survey firms are utilizing drones, the deliverables they have, how this impacts their cost structures. Like, got really a lot of good details on the inside of how this works, and been exposed to a newer level of this. So, all right. So I skipped the agenda slide because I want to keep you guys a little bit in suspense, but let me tell you briefly what we're covering. We're going to deliver on all of our promises. We're going to show you how drones are being used in construction, map surveying, engineering, particularly mapping, 3D modeling. And we say mapping, literally it's just a drone taking a bajillion pictures of the ground, creating a digital representation of that in a computer that you can make measurements off of, and that you can connect to real world coordinates. So that way you can work with other project engineers, surveyors. Everybody can lay their data on top of each other and everything lines up. Okay. I sent out 3 days worth of videos. It was about 10-minute video each day, sort of Thursday, Friday, and then one Monday. I'm curious, did you all get a chance to watch any of those videos? Or did you just say, David, I know you worked hard on these, but I really don't care that much, which you won't hurt my feelings. That's totally fine. But let me know if you watch those videos, because I mentioned a few of these things. I wanted to give you guys a little preliminary information so you could come in here a bit more knowledgeable and we can dive into some better topics here. But if not, we'll do like we'll hit on a few of the things I mentioned briefly. But if you do want to go back, go look in your email, about 7 to 10 minute video each day. And I talk about some of these things. Cool. So kind of a combo, not yet. That's totally fine. But they're pretty small and bite size. But what I want to talk about is, drones are being utilized more and more and more. I'm going to show you that in a minute here. There's a big shift going on that I've seen because we have enterprise customers that take our Part 107 stuff and do some of our other trainings. And I've seen more and more and more survey, engineering, oil and gas, energy, construction firms getting on this and implementing either drone programs internally or hiring a lot more people externally. One of the largest oil and gas companies in the world is one of our customers. And I was asking them, I was like, hey, you guys get tons. I think they get like 100 Part 107 licenses per year they have for the last few years from us. And I was like, hey, what are you guys doing with this afterwards? Like, I thought they were just training up their internal people. It turns out they're actually providing these to like external third-party companies a lot of times so they can train them up and then they can provide services back to this company. So I thought it was pretty interesting. So I've seen a big mix and we'll talk more about that in a minute. We're going to talk about, what companies are using this for in these industries, construction, engineering, surveying, because this is, I think, the biggest opportunity that there is for either drone service providers or if you just want to get like full-time employment. If you guys are familiar with Dusty Jolly, he's our Drone Launch Connect community manager, great dude. He had a drone service business for a while, kind of on the side, and then he got hired on at a drone program for this billion-dollar company, which I'll talk about in a minute here. He was their number 2 hire for their drone program. He makes a great salary, and he's doing a ton of awesome stuff. He's doing all the stuff that we're going to be talking about here today. And he's told me, dude, I just learned about all this, and I'm drinking through a fire hose learning all this information for this company. So definitely more and more employment opportunities opening up out there, and there's more and more opportunities for service providers. So we'll get into all that, but I just wanted to show that here. Okay, so first let's dive in. So we're going to talk about all that stuff, but I want to sort of paint a broad picture here before we get too deep. Does anybody know what 4IR is? Okay, I'll throw that in the chat if you know what 4IR is. And by the way, I see a lot of people saying, I didn't get the videos, didn't get this. No worries. We'll send out in the email we send out tomorrow morning. We'll be sure to throw some links in there so you can go back and watch those. If you recently registered, you probably didn't see those. Those went out to people that were on our current email list. 4IR sounds weird. Obviously, I'm making it intentionally slightly vague. Oh, we got one. Yeah, you guys know. So a couple of you know. All right. Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, Root was the first one to turn me on to this term. It's like, what is this? But broadly speaking, it is, people call it Industry 4.0. But it's a new era of development in which digital and physical, we're not going to worry about biological necessarily, converge and fundamentally transform industries and economies. It's the convergence of physical and digital worlds. So what does that mean? That means we have a physical world and we're doing things like mapping it and creating digital representations. Have you ever heard of digital twins? Or augmented reality, virtual reality. Basically, there's just so much data out there. How do we integrate the physical world and the digital world? And drones are becoming a huge piece of this. Just one piece. There's a lot of other stuff in there. That's like, like AI and VR and all these different things. But I've really seen this becoming to be more and more embraced. And if companies don't start to adapt to this, then it's going to be very difficult for them to compete in the long term. And I'll explain more of that here in just a moment. All right. So that's what the fourth industrial revolution is. Okay. So what's going to change? So we have this fourth industrial revolution. What industry is going to change? Basically every industry. Can you think of an industry think forward in your mind 10 years? What industry is not going to be impacted by improved technology, VR, augmented reality, a lot of this, automated manufacturing that's going on, literally every industry. If you think back to the third industrial revolution, if you don't know what that is, basically it's the information age. So the internet, the rise and more, increased popularity of the computer, digital information was being stored everywhere. As some people might say, that's a fad. I remember seeing these videos like on the internet where like, oh, this internet thing is a fad. It's going to go away. Your computers are a fad. Yeah. Can you imagine being an accountant in like the late 80s and being like, oh, computers and the internet, or I guess maybe internet's a little later, it's a fad. It's not going away. I can keep keeping my hand ledgers that I've been making, or I'll keep drafting my design plans by hand, you would not have a business today. There is not a single
Yes.
bookkeeping, accounting firm, architecture firm, engineering firm that doesn't use computers, that doesn't use CAD, that doesn't use QuickBooks. It is what exists. Okay. So that's what happens when industries progress, when technology comes out, right? Do you guys remember dial-up internet, AOL? I was a little younger when that happened. I don't know how old you all are in here, but I remember throwing on that dial-up, all that stuff. My screen name was RT10 Turbo, like all these horrible, embarrassing screen names. I get on there to chat with people, but like I never would have imagined what it would turn into today, right? So a lot of times we can't even grasp how much technology will be integrated into our lives. And again, I'm getting to a point that this is changing all the industries that
Yes.
exist, right? It's going to change. Everything always improves. And you have two options when things improve and technology it progresses, right? You can dig your heels in and say, well, I don't care. I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to learn that, boo hoo. Or you can say, hey, technology is adapting. If I don't learn how to harness this to the best of its abilities and use it as a tool and improve my knowledge so I can help others. If you don't do that and you dig your heels in, like you're going to have a tough time coming up, right? People can, a lot of times, certain people see opportunity, certain people see fear and risk, right? They're like, ooh, change is bad. But it creates tons of opportunity for people who are willing to go out there and learn. So I'm just throwing it out there and say that. So, okay. So what will change? I mean, basically everything. So which industries? We're going to focus in because you care about drones. And I think the biggest industries where drones intersects with this and where the highest value is, again, I've already mentioned it, but just broadly speaking, we're going to talk about today construction, engineering, and all types of engineering, but primarily civil engineering, I would say, and then maybe structural for like 3D modelings and things
Yes.
like that. Uh,
Civil
and then,
engineering is going to have the biggest impact. Anything related to uh, having a physical assets, like anything that's
mhm,
being happening in the real world, is going to have a big impact. And again, just like how every industrial revolution has revolutionized, that's why they call it revolution, the industrial revolution. It literally revolutionized the entire industry. So everything changes with it, not just one thing, everything, how we work, how the products we get, how we get our products, the quality, every time it has improved. It comes about every 100 years. So the first one came 1800s with the steam engine. Second one came with electricity in 1900s. Third one came with the internet in 2000s. And now we are getting into the fourth, which is going to revolutionize everything. So the third revolution revolutionized every industry. It made every industry digital. Now with the fourth industrial revolution, it's going to merge the physical and the digital. So before we make any changes in the physical, we can make changes in the digital.
yeah. And Root's already been doing a lot of these projects, and I have some data to back it up. We've got some actual examples and real world stories to back it up too. So I'm like going to show you real world data that's talking about what we're, saying
Yes.
to you. And then we actually have like stories that we've experienced, and I get to hear from tons of people in the industry. I get texts from a lot of people all the time and conversations all the time. So it helps me see what's going on here. So what industries will change? These are the main ones that concern drones that will change. I mean, like media. I think this one's already sort of changed and is, I don't want to say it's totally done, but they used to use helicopters for every like movie scene, and now they can use drones for a lot of it. So that one definitely improved and definitely helped. And, think about like FPV drones with a cool new perspective. So we're not talking about that here today, but it did impact that as well. But there's just so much opportunity when it comes to like this stuff here that I'm just seeing more and more of every day. Um, and so, you know, when these industries are changing, like I said, you have and you can either like go, I don't understand it, or dive in and be like, oh, this is where the opportunity is. Like the best chance to be successful is to dive into an area that is growing and try to be the best expert you can, because that's where the most demand is going to be. And you're probably thinking, and we'll get to this later, is like, well, there's a ton of drone operators out there, and if there's so much opportunity, why is it that like they're not all rolling in it? And there's a really specific reason why, and Nate talked about it, and Root knows, and we'll get there in a minute. But just hang on. But there's a reason that I've seen that people like they just can't bridge this gap here. Okay, so how do I know that that this is happening? Right. So There is a company, you might be familiar with them, called Drone Deploy. They make software for what's called reality capture. It's another name for 3D modeling, mapping, digital twins, basically using your drone or other ground-based cameras or sensors to create some type of digital representation of the real world. So they created a state of reality capture report. And they surveyed over 1,000 different firms, primarily in the AEC, so architecture, engineering, construction world, which is what we're talking about. And they were like, how many people are already using this? Now, I can tell you years ago, it was much slower. You had to do like this education. Like you would tell people about drones and they're like, what is this again? And okay, like how do I use it? You had to have an uphill battle from like explaining it standpoint. But I'm seeing a bit of a tipping point here. So adoption is on the rise. So I think this was a 2024 report. We're just in the beginning of 2025 now. But as of the time they did this, 60% of enterprise businesses are already using reality capture. Okay. And this was, I think, businesses of a certain size. So the larger businesses that maybe had some more resources to like experiment with this. But again, if large companies are going to be doing it, small companies will have to follow along, or else they're just, again, going to get left out. Even the small accounting firms today use QuickBooks, right? It's not like that's reserved for some, KPMG Big Four people. People will follow suit. And then this says this figure rises to almost 80% that for companies that have 100 or 10,000 employees or more. It says only 20% of companies with 100 plus employees have no plans to use it, but the remaining 20% are actively planning to do so. This stat confused me a little bit, the reading of it, because I'm like 79 plus 20 is 119. So I don't know exactly, but you get the gist that like a lot of them are using it, and a good chunk are still planning to use it even more. This is a stat I really thought was interesting. 62% of businesses plan to spend more on reality capture. So more on software, more on services, equipment. 34% expect to continue the current spend. Only 4% of people said that they're going to decrease spending on this area, reality capture. So I said before that, I'm like, sorry, it's a little bright in my face. I said before that this is starting to happen now, right? It's not like, oh, David just is, saying stuff to get us excited. I'm seeing real data, and I'm hearing real stories here too. Yes. So, one thing I was going to illustrate to you from Nate. Okay, so he mentioned to me, I was like, what were you guys doing 2 years ago when it comes to this drone mapping and surveying stuff? Like, how important is it? He said about 2 years ago, across the whole company, we had maybe 100 active projects where we were using drones. My division alone had 50 to 75 active sites. It's like now across the whole company, we have 3 to 4 active sites using drones, and my division alone has like 180. So these things like 3x, okay, on how much they're using it. And now they have like 200 drones that they use just in their like area alone. So I thought it was interesting. And then I thought, well, they're doing this all in-house. They're a huge company. It's like, no, we sub some of it out to other contractors. We do some of it ourselves. And I'll talk more about it in a minute. What he said was the most important. But yeah, I just feel like, it's from him. He's saying, yeah, this is definitely increasing a lot. I'll give one other example. I talked to Ted Strazimiri earlier today, actually, or maybe it was yesterday. And he's like, yeah, there's basically a huge power distribution RFP, so request for proposal up in Canada where he is. He had to go in with like 3 other people. It's like a 5-year contract. Like he's like, this is going to be like a huge thing. And they just need people who are qualified to be able to do this. So they're signing 5-year contracts. Another guy I talked to, other Drone Launch Academy guy, I didn't get his permission, so I don't want to like say his name, but he was looking at putting in, there's like a bid for the Army Corps of Engineers for a 10-year project to do their inspections, 3D modeling and mapping stuff for them. So this stuff is out there and people are adopting it more with drones. So anecdotally, data here. So anyways, that's what I've seen from my end. Root, on your end, like what is it, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing all basically the companies that we were working before that were not even interested in the drone hearing about it. Now they are all implementing, and the people who were even skeptics, even the survey companies, when the new thing came out and they were skeptic. Now, as the time progressed, they're seeing the other people adapt, their competitors, their other peers are adapting this technology. Everyone wants to get on board. So now we are at the point that everyone wants to get on board. So now people are understanding the impact this technology is having. I mean, think about it. The same project that you do traditionally would take you a month, and by implementing drone technology and the whole service, it would just take you a week to do that. So imagine the money that they make. They reduce the downtime, they reduce the time that it takes to do the project. Now they can utilize that time to do more projects, and increase their profitability. And companies all about profitability and safety. And if you work in a construction industry, you know how important the timing is. And that's where this technology helps them. So I see it, almost every company is not even at least having some thought about it, and not everyone's adopting. But I think in the recent future, all the companies you will see just become part. It will just become part of their program, just like how the computer is right now.
Yeah. Hey, real quick. Landon asked, are these stats enterprise construction business or in general? I think this is mostly enterprise architecture, engineering and construction businesses. If you want to look it up, it's called State of Reality Capture Report by Drone Deploy. You can Google it and find it. And they have like a huge report. I just grabbed a couple of things out of here for simplicity's sake, but feel free to go look that up as well. All right. So what does that mean for you? I think the problem is a lot of people don't see this activity going on. Like, money is trading hands all the time with these really, really big B2B companies. I remember my father-in-law was a banker for a while, and he would like finance all of these different weird businesses that made pipe fittings. And one guy was like a chemical container business and all these things. These guys made like millions of dollars. And I'd never heard of any of this stuff because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the business to business world that as a consumer, you just never see, and you don't realize how much money is floating around. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean like it's not there. Again, I talked to a guy at Geo Week. I don't remember if I mentioned this. Maybe I mentioned this to you early, Root, but he was a surveyor, and he's like, yeah, like surveyors are just so slammed with so much work. A lot of the smaller ones can't afford to like take time away to figure out drones, or maybe they don't want to because they're just so busy with what they have. And so there's a lot of work that happens on the enterprise stuff that we just can't see. You just kind of have to figure out how to get in the way of it. And we're going to talk about that here while we're doing this. Basically, what does that mean for you? It means if you can figure out how to get the skills, knowledge, understand the deliverables. I'm still here. Understand the deliverables that these companies want. We're going to show you these deliverables in just a sec. You can actually make yourself valuable to them, and there's opportunity there, right? So, like I said, most survey firms are drowning in work. All these engineering and construction firms, they make billions of dollars. You got to figure out how to get the right things to get in front of them. Like for instance, Root, you mentioned there was a drone service provider business, right? That
Yes.
had reached out to you that said they wanted to work with a land survey firm, and they couldn't because their data wasn't good enough. So
Exactly.
talk about that for a
It was actually this morning, and I see that like a lot of I see that's a very common thing, because there is a huge gap of knowledge of, there's tutorials online that you learn how to process data in Pix4D or the softwares and all that, but there is not any information out there that actually shows you how do you what data to give to the survey firm so they can actually put their stamp on it to actually approve your work and actually use it meaningful. A lot of time I've seen people make this mistake of just sending them Pix4D files or drone deploy files or orthomosaics. That's not how it works. There is so much detail that you have to go into, because surveying and mapping, it's a serious profession, and so is engineering. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of great attention to detail to deliver this kind of project, because literally all the infrastructure is dependent on this kind of work. So that's why it's important. So I advise them that there is a lot more detail that you have to go into, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, the one of the, and I'll leave this here too. So if there's opportunity there, why do some drone operators struggle? It's because I've seen this broadly after talking to people at big companies, small companies, seeing successful people like Root, some of these other drone operators who are out there. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn who have really successful mapping and GIS businesses. People don't get these opportunities because they don't know how to get their drone data accurate enough to be accepted, to be usable by a survey firm, an engineering firm, construction firm. They don't know how to prove, hey, here's how accurate this data is. Here's how I validated it. Here's how I've checked it. Here's how you can feel comfortable relying on this data. They can't confidently say that. They don't know how to do that. It's not because they're dumb. It's not like, oh, I've tried to do this and I just don't have the intelligence to figure this out. It's a lot of times one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. You're like, I don't know what I need to know to actually get there in figuring this out, right? So, and it sucks because there's like a huge opportunity that like slips through a lot of people's fingers because they don't really know how to do this. So, let's look at some deliverables. So, what is it that these companies actually want to see? What are things that they use? So, I know Root, you have some examples you wanted to share.
Yes.
I have some examples I can pull up too from Nate. Do you want to go first, Root, or are you ready, or you want to go to Nate's stuff
Yes.
first?
Go through Nate's stuff first, and in the meantime, I'll share my screen and go through all the projects and show.
Okay.
Yes.
And I see some people talking here like, oh, the equipment's really expensive, and I have something I can share with you on that. Like, let me share my other screen here. So I would say the common equipment that is used is expensive, what a lot of people use. However, I was really impressed. Can you guys see this? Okay, let me go down here. I was really impressed that when we did this, what I did was I went out to all these guys. They had these, $5,000 drones, $30,000 drones that they were flying. And I went and I compared my data with my Mavic Air 2S, which is like a little $900 drone. And I flew the same site as them, right? And we processed all the information the same way. And even we did multiple flights with their drones, sometimes using, people talk about RTK or PPK. It allows your drone images to auto be like corrected for the correct GPS position to make them more accurate, like to make the position of the images more accurate, improving your like map accuracy. But we noticed that even if you used regular images that were totally uncorrected, as long as you had these ground control points, which if you watch those videos I talked about earlier, as long as you had those GCPs in there pinning the data and you had enough of them, you can make up for the lack of not having RTK, or which is a correction thing that makes your drone data more accurate, or PPK. And it was only off by a little bit. It was pretty close. Yeah. So you might not look like a super pro walking out there with a drone, like a Mavic or like an Air 2S or something like that. But if that's all you have to get started, if you can work with a surveyor, or if they already have survey control, like the coordinates of their targets shot, which a lot of times they will, like Root, when you're working with them, do they have their own survey teams that will go out there and collect the GCPs?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I work with the survey company, they want to control the control point. So I make the diagram, I tell them where we're going to place the GCPs. Survey crew comes with me, with their stake, with their GNSS receiver, they get the data of X, Y, and Z position of the target, and then I use that data into the processing. So a lot of time that's very important. Sometimes I do it myself, but most of the time when I work with the survey company, at least they want to be control of that, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. So like, again, an Air 2S is not going to make you look like some type of pro, but it's more about understanding deliverables, how to get the data to be accurate. And if you can get them to provide you with the coordinates of those control points and you can integrate that, you're going to get almost just as accurate as someone with like an RTK drone. Now, where the RTK stuff helps is if you don't have GCPs, or let's say there's an area of your site that doesn't have ground control points, that stuff will be inherently more accurate. But again, you could just make up for that by placing a few more GCPs, and it will be pretty accurate. And you can show the accuracy to your client, and you can do that. So if you can partner with them and you have $1,000 drone or $800 drone, maybe like a 1-inch sensor, you can really get, you can get started in this. Now, again, you'll probably want to upgrade as time goes on to make your life easier and capture faster and things like that. But if you're just starting out, that's potential. Okay.
Don't let the equipment stop you from doing something,
Yeah. We always say knowledge is greater than equipment. All right. So let me show you. So something that is used often, especially in the civil engineering, they're called takeoff calculations. Does anybody know what takeoff calculations are? Let me know real quick. Yeah, a lot of people talking in here about. So Air 3S is typically, you need something that can work with like DroneLink or one of the mapping automation tools. That's the nice thing I like about the Air 2S. All right, so I'll just tell you, project takeoff calculations. What you're going to do? See if I can mute this because I don't want it coming through. So this is Nate. He's the guy you'll see later. Hopefully my internet's not going to be too bad here. Just try to get to the screenshots of the actual. Okay. So what's going to happen is the civil engineering firm is going to design, hey, here's what everything needs to look like grading wise. So where they need to put the dirt, smooth out the roads, all the elevations and slopes and all that stuff so that we can go in there, pack the right material in and pave roads, make parking lots, be able to lay foundations for building, all that stuff. There's a lot of earthwork that has to be done on the site before you can start building. And so they need to see, what does the ground look like right now? And let's compare that to our what's called a design file that you can load in here. And then it takes the differences. So you'll see here, we have it says current surface. You can like kind of see there to the previous survey. So he was comparing to a survey that they had done previously to see some differences, but you could also select the design file. And what it does is it shows you, here's how much dirt you need to remove. So that would be cut. And then let's say there was an area that had like a low point that needed to be filled in according to the design file. That'd be a fill. And it can take the data for that entire project site and see what the difference is, the total net, which we can look right here, net. And Nate says we can either see if this is a waste job or a job where we're bringing dirt to the property. Because if they're going to have to truck in a ton of extra dirt to get the surfaces where it needs to be, they're going to have to like raise areas up. That costs a lot of money, and it's going to impact their bids, their costing. And then when they actually hire the firm to come out, they're going to, or maybe it's their own guys, they need to see how much dirt is being brought in because they get billed by the truckload. So they can then verify and say, okay, based on the amount of dirt that's on site now, here's how much we've been billed. We can compare that. So it allows you to see your total cost of, are we going to need to bring dirt in, or we're going to have extra dirt from this project. We can maybe go bring it to another project and use it there. But you end up with something called this is like a heat map, but you end up with something called a cut fill report. I don't know if it's in this one or not. Let's see here. Yeah. So cut fill report. See if I can get something. So this shows you report. So this shows you in each area, the grid, okay, what the difference is and how much you're going to have to do cut and fill, right? And so this is what they want to see a lot of times, to see which areas they're going to have to be moving dirt around in the most. So this is an example of one of the deliverables that you would give. Another deliverable is contours. And contours are just showing you where the elevations are flowing. And you're going to give like a contour map, maybe a tin file. Root can talk about that more in a second. But they want to do this so that they can compare. Let me show you this. So they can compare engineering plan sets. So, hey, where is the water supposed to be running off? And where are the slopes supposed to be? So I can make sure that the water is going to go into the drains, into the, down the gutters and flow in the road the correct way, or into the retention ponds. So this is the engineering design files you can see here. And then here's the actual contour lines. They're a little bit faded gray here. But he said this is something we would check to make sure, is the water sloping off in the correct direction? Is it headed towards the drain? Is it going where we want to go? So this is another deliverable. They would use this sort of contour map, contour analysis to check where we are. And we can see the different slopes to see things going down here. This is what they're going to do. They're going to check to make sure that the contours are flowing in the correct directions and that things are going in the right place. There's a couple other things you can do, but those are two of the really most commonly used ones, and that crosses over into land surveying a bit as well. Okay, so that's give you a little bit of some examples of how this stuff is actually used. And there's a process you have to go through to make sure when you capture this data, it's accurate. And where you're going to get into, I won't say trouble, but where you're going to need to make sure you have good accuracy is on your vertical accuracy. So a lot of drones are okay at horizontal accuracy or relative within the map itself, measuring, like if I wanted to measure the length of that road there, I could probably do that pretty accurately with any drone, no ground control points. As long as I could throw a map together, I could pretty accurately get the length of this road or point to point. But if I want to see how does the elevation change within a few inches over, the stretch of this road, that's where you're going to need that ground control points and to be more accurate, more concerned with the precision and the accuracy. And that's where you're going to separate yourself sort of and how valuable you are. Because if you don't have that, they can't really use the data because they're overlaying this on top of each other and stuff has to line up perfectly. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Root, do you want to share a little bit with some stuff that you have.
I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Oh, I got to put you on. Here you go. Well, we're looking at us. There we go. All right, go ahead. What do you got?
All right. So here are some of the deliverables that I want to show you. This is a recent project we did. It's a survey project. And first of all, we had to do the boundary survey. I work with the surveyor, team of surveyors. So I collected data using drone to create the digital representation of the entire site. So surveyor know where each utility is located. To give an example, this is a water treatment plant. So in the bottom, you can see the bottom on the top. It helped surveyor a lot identifying all the utilities that are on the ground. And so this was one of the project, and I will show you what we delivered for that. So this we were able to deliver all this kind of data. Basically, let me go here and show you what that data means. So all the utilities identified, all the marker you see, it's like either a manhole or either some kind of utility that's on the ground that's been labeled correctly. So if you see on my left-hand side, you can see the underground electric, road unpaved, a miscellaneous fence, concrete, identifying all that. So this makes surveyors' job a lot easier and make it a lot faster rather than having to go and measure it manually. This is another project we did. It's a 300-acre project. We combined LiDAR data with photogrammetry data to get the terrain of this huge orange grove. If you can see, we cannot see what's under the tree with photogrammetry data. So we had to use LiDAR and combine them to actually create the surface. And I will show you what the end product looked like. So this is one of the survey that we give it to the client. For that, it's contours. So this is one of the example. I'll give you other example. This is a final survey of what it looks like that the survey company was able to give using my data. This is a topographic survey. So this kind of data are usually delivered from the surveyor to the client, but what you want to deliver to the surveyor is this data, and I will go through it to show you. All right, we are okay. So we have here, here, I'm going to click on it. This is, so in the description you see is 167. That's a description of one particular item. So 167 is identified as a manhole. So as soon as when they pull that data into their software, it will show up. So 167, here, I'll give you an example of what it means. There's a lot of lag when I share my screen. There's a lot of lag on the. Yep, but basically the blue dots you see are the grid points. So that means it's taking X, Y, and Z data from each point and using that data, taking millions of points and creating a one big terrain. So that helps the surveyor create a one big surface for them. All the markers you see are the utilities that we have identified. So it makes it a lot easier for surveyor to create the final product using this data. This is another project. I don't want to overwhelm everyone using this kind of data, but I just want to
don't get like too overwhelmed, but just use this as example, like, oh, this is the kind of information that
so this is another survey we did, and if you can see, we were able to mark all the sidewalks, every curb, buildings, the base of the building, all of that. So this is kind of data that actually helps the surveyor put their stamp on and deliver their project to their client a lot faster. And when you're able to demonstrate this kind of stuff, it makes it a lot easier for the surveyor to hire you, because a lot of surveyors don't even know that you can do this kind of stuff or deliver this kind of deliverables that actually help them. You know, when they hear drone, they hear, okay, you're taking photos, you're creating orthomosaic, all that, but they don't know the level you can go to. And this is what you need to learn. So that's the gap that I see everywhere, that the gap of knowledge of, after you collect the data, you process with Pix40, what do you deliver? What do you actually deliver? And that's the important part.
Yeah. And so I want to show, let's do this here. Okay. A couple things. So Nate gave me 3 things that I said, when you are hiring an outside company to come in and provide mapping services, what is it that you are looking for from them to be like, oh, these people can do the job? Because he's part of the guy who's in charge of like making these decisions, right?
Yes.
So, you know, I was like, we're going to be talking to a lot of people who are interested in drone service business and working with these teams. What do they need to know? Like, what do you look for as the hiring company to this? And he gave me 3 things. Okay. And he'll be on Thursday, but this is what he told me. First, that understanding coordinate systems. He's like, I can't tell you how many times people don't understand coordinate systems. There's different things. So there are the coordinate systems of like latitude, longitude is a coordinate system. That's what you're used to probably on your phone, right? That you see on Google Maps or whatever. But that's not usually used that often in surveying construction. Usually they use state plane coordinate systems, which is totally different. And it's a different sort of thing you need to be familiar with. So you need to know state plane coordinate systems. Sometimes they do something called a local site calibration or like basically a custom coordinate system for their site. So you need to be familiar with those. He said, because a lot of times the person that's going to call you to do this will say, hey, we need a topo survey of this area, or we need aerial data collected. Maybe we have all the ground control. We just need someone to come in and do the topo survey, which is topographic survey, basically what Root just showed you. And he said a lot of times we'll already have a surveyor that's already done all the control and set up the ground control points. So they come out with GNSS receivers and gotten precise coordinates, elevations for many points on site. So you already know that. So like we need someone who's familiar with that and who can understand how to tie in to our data, use the data that we have, integrate it into what they produce so we can be confident that they line up. He's like, the problem is the people that are going to call you to do these jobs are going to be like project managers, and they're not like mapping survey people. And he's like, they're not going to know the questions to ask you. They're not going to know like, hey, do you know coordinate systems? Do you know this? Like, they're just not going to ask you that. So you have to know how to ask, hey, what coordinate system are you using? Do you already have established survey control? Can I get that file? Like he's like, we need them to bring the knowledge in because they're not automatically going to be connected with the people who know that. Did you find that experience as well, Root? You were like nodding.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was number 1. Okay. Second was, he said, understand what the end goal is of what they're trying to do. What are the final deliverables and how are they going to be used? He's like, a lot of times people have misunderstood what the data is. They just turn something over and they turn over data that's not what we need, or it doesn't fit into our existing data, or we can't put our design files on top of it. He's like, so it just ends up kind of becoming a little useless. And then he said, third, he said is safety. He said every construction engineering firm, survey firms, when they're on construction sites, I'm sure, are huge on safety. He's like, so if you get on site and you say, hey, do you guys have a safety plan? Can I see it? So that way I make sure that when I'm doing my drone operations, I can integrate with your safety plan and I'm not going to interfere with any of the other operations that you have going on, and that I'm not a hindrance to your job site. He's like, we've had third-party people or like truck drivers who show up in shorts and t-shirts and we've kicked them off the job site because they don't have the appropriate attire. They're just not professional. So he's like, make sure they understand safety. If you don't, you go take a OSHA 10 class to keep that like thing if you plan on working on construction sites. Okay. So that was another thing he said. And again, he'll be here later, but I just want to give that example. All right. Real quick, I want to just do an announcement. So I want to tell you guys about this new program that we have been working forever. And when I say forever, I mean about a year to develop. I'm going to tell you about that. And then again, we're going to stick around for Q&A and we can get back into more teaching, but I know some people are probably on a time crunch and I promised we would announce this and give people an option for this. So let me show you what we've been working on. Root is a part of it. Nate is an instructor in it. I showed you a little bit earlier what it was. But again, we've seen this as a huge problem that people lack this understanding of what deliverables there are. They don't know how to speak the language. They don't understand what's important. They don't understand the fundamental systems they need to know if they want to do this. Okay. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I would like to announce our advanced drone mapping and modeling program. We created a whole certificate program. We wanted people to be able to take courses and classes, learn how to do this, and then take a test, a final exam that's graded, and you can't see the answers or anything like that. You have to pass a final exam. Then you can get these certificates and certifications that you can display on your website. This stuff attaches to your LinkedIn. This says I've passed an exam on this information and I know what I'm doing. So there are 5 courses involved in this. All right. So here's what they are. We originally taught, I'll zoom into each one of these, but we originally taught this live last summer. We were going to make it one course. It just got we realized it needed to be so large to be able to encapsulate everything people needed to know that we split it up into 5 different courses. The first one is called Geodesy for Drone Surveying. If you don't know what geodesy is, all that stuff we talked about, coordinate systems, datums, reference frames, the underlying knowledge that underpins everything that you're going to do with mapping, geospatial surveying, is geodesy. Now, I'm pretty stoked because the guy I got to teach this used to be the former chief geodetic surveyor for the United States National Geodetic Survey, and he literally was on the team that invented like the datums. And so he's like super, he was there for 40 years. He's like super great. So that's number one. You need to get that out of the way, understand geodesy. Then after that, once you understand geodesy, you need to understand GNSS positioning and survey control. GNSS, Global Navigation Satellite System, basically GPS, but like the global version. And then survey control, that's what we talked about. Ground control points, knowing, hey, what is the exact latitude, what they call northern, easting elevation of these different points, how to integrate that into your data, how to check to make sure that it's actually accurate, how to be able to communicate there is a variance or an error or RMSE, root mean square error of 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 5 centimeters, whatever it is, so that your surveyor engineer can say, okay, I know this is within the tolerances that we allow for our projects, right? So how to do the different type of RTK corrections, PPK corrections. There's all these things you can do to establish really accurate positioning from satellites that you bring into your drone data, okay? Next, advanced drone mapping for construction and engineering. It's taking what you learned about geodesy, GNSS, and survey control, and then putting it into real world practice into these construction projects, engineering projects. We go start to finish. I can show you inside the courses more, but I'm just going to kind of run through it here. This is the one I just showed you with Nate Howard. He walks through everywhere, like how we plan out our projects, where we place GCPs. We follow him around the field, shooting all his different control points, show him bringing all that data back, processing it, integrating all of his information, doing the analysis, getting deliverables, all the way from end to end, what his team does to get the data that's used by hundreds, if not thousands of people across his big engineering company, right? Next one, this is taught by Root, Advanced Drone Mapping for Land Survey. All the stuff he was just showing you that he's doing for these land survey firms, he shows you, here's how I do it, here's what they want, here's how you integrate all this data, here's how you work with them, right? That's in a nutshell, that one. We do planimetrics, which is like line work. He does that. We do a car dealership and a golf course survey for contours. That's the 2 projects he works through in that course. And the last one, not available yet. This one will probably be available in May. We have to finish some filming. We got delayed for some weather. This is 3D modeling and digital twins. So this is less on mapping and surveying, more on creating a digital model of a building or a bridge. For this course, we're using a bridge inspection. Bridges have to be inspected every few years for cracks and different things like that. So this is how you create real world digital representations of buildings and bridges for 3D modeling type of work. Okay. So these are the 5 courses. Now, like I mentioned, best instructors in the world. This is Dave Doyle, former president of the American Association of Geodetic Surveying, super good guy who teaches GNSS positioning and survey control. Chris Breedlove, certified geospatial information, certified geographic information systems professional. He works with surveying firms and engineering firms, consulting on their equipment, how to use it. Nate Howard, already talked a lot about him. Rut Patel, needs no more introduction. This course is not available yet, but it's taught by Ted Strazimiri, one of the smartest people I've ever met when it comes to drones, 3D modeling, all that stuff. He also has like a lot of followers on LinkedIn, which I thought is great, like 25,000. He's sought out by like every drone manufacturer. While we were filming, he was getting calls from, I don't want to mention their names because he didn't give permission, but every different drone manufacturer that I've heard of, he got phone calls from them while we were there. Like, hey, can you test this out, Ted? Hey, can you go compare these 2 data sets? Can you test our equipment out? Tell us what's wrong. So like, he's super smart. Okay. So you're probably wondering, David, this sounds expensive. And guess what? It is. This is the most expensive thing we've ever offered. So if it's not in your budget, do not get offended. We've priced this for B2B stuff. Our goal is we're going to take this out to companies and say, hey, if you want your teams to not make mistakes, get them trained up on this stuff so that they don't cost you money by picking the wrong geoid model or not implementing survey control correctly, because this can get really costly for them. Okay. But we know that you are drone services business. You're not huge companies. So we're going to we're doing a launch discount. But again, this is going to be expensive. If it's, this is for people who I really want to dive into this. I want to take this seriously. I want to learn this. I want to do this. Okay. So if it's not for you, if you're like early on and you don't want to do it, no hard feelings. Okay. All right. So here's the full price of what these programs are going to be. This is when we go to companies, B2B, this is the pricing we're going to give them. Geodesy, $300. GSS positioning survey control, $400. Advanced mapping for construction engineering, $800, $800. This one's going to be $800 as well. This is going to be a little over $3K when it's all said and done. But these courses, if you purchase them individually, would be that. Okay, I give you guys a launch discount. But I want you to know that when you start doing these jobs, these are not $300 jobs. Root, the project that you did for that engineering firm, are you comfortable saying how much they paid you to do that project for the river survey?
A lot of money, in tens of thousands of dollars, multiple tens of thousands of dollars. And I'll tell you how much they got paid too. They got paid $89,000 to deliver that project. So yeah.
So
yeah.
So you make this. These are like multi 5-figure, or sorry, multi 4-figure, if not 5-figure projects per time, because they know the equipment's expensive, your expertise is valuable. Survey companies, they charge a lot of money to do this. So if you're partnering with them and you're reducing their workload, you can be very successful here. All right. So what we're doing for you all, okay, so this is a interesting looking graph here. You can buy all 4 of these courses, the program, or sorry, the 5th one's not available yet. You can start with the first 4, all right? Normally, I guess these would be $22.96. If you were to buy them all individually, we're going to give individual discounts for each course if you just wanted to do one. If you want to sign up for the Advanced Drone Mapping and Modeling Certification Program, where you can get the full Advanced Drone Mapping Modeling certificate to display and all this stuff and go through all the courses, we'll give you an additional $300 off. So all 4 courses for $11.96, and that's going to be good until Friday. Okay, Friday at midnight, which is essentially going to be about half off of what we're going to charge full price. And again, we're not going to do this discounts for like the regular companies, B2B stuff, because they got money that they can pay. All right, so I'm not feeling too bad about that. If you want to do that, you just go to mappingdeal.com, okay, and it will bring you automatically to this page where you'll get instant access to these 4 courses. I'll go through and show you a little bit more detail about them here in just a second, so you can see what's inside, but I at least wanted to get this to you. I would advise that you go ahead and write this down somewhere so you have it in case you want to come back to it later. Mappingdeal.com. It'll automatically take you to this checkout page. If you want to buy one of the other courses just individually, like, I just want to get the Geodesy course, I want to start where. These are meant to be taken in order, by the way. They build off of each other, okay? The code is ADMM for Advanced Drone Mapping and Modeling, launch, LAUNCH. I'd write this down too, okay? So that's the program. There's an extra, like, for the first people to sign up, Nate and Root agreed to do a 1-hour group coaching session with the first 15 people who registered. So we'll look to see who were the first 15 people to get in, and we'll coordinate a 1-hour group Zoom call where we can dive in. They can address your questions specifically. We can talk to you if you're like, hey, what's this deliverable? What should I charge? How does this work? Can you give me advice? You can do all of that stuff, okay? So again, this is the first time we ever launched this. We've been working a long time on this, mappingdeal.com. Write that down. This is what it is. This one will be out in probably May. And if you sign up for the full bundle, the launch pricing bundle, you will have access to like a more discounted version of this when it comes out. We're going to offer a special price that way because, this is cheaper if you buy all of them together. So we don't want to penalize you since it's not out yet. So if you do sign up for the bundle of all 4 courses in the program, the 5th one will give it to you at sort of the same sort of rate discount. All right. While I have that up, I just want to go through each course so you see, because you're gonna be like, what is in all of these? Okay. All right. There we go. So, first, Geodesy for drone surveying. Okay. We go intro to Geodesy, what it is. So the way that these courses are laid out is that we have everything's here. There we go. So Dave Doyle is going to walk you through each video, bite-sized chunks, okay? With each course, there is a course textbook. I think this one is 200 pages long. It's a written companion guide that you have, okay? You can go through the entire thing. You can have all of this stuff at your disposal if you ever need to refer back to it and wondering, hey, what did they say about state plane coordinate system? Let me go back and look at that, right? So we talk about geodetic surveying, some of the origins of it, the different height equations that you're going to need. A lot of times people don't know the difference between ellipsoid height and orthometric height and geoid height. That stuff is going to come up on the work site. So Dusty told me, one of our employees, when he started working, he's like, I needed to know these heights because somebody messed it up and it caused a bunch of problems. And if I would have known this, it would have made things a lot easier. Coordinate systems, geodetic models, and datums. Again, this is one of the biggest things that people said that was needed. Heights and vertical accuracy, map projections, geodetic control networks. So how you go find the different NGS markers and validate that your receivers are working and being able to tie into some existing control network. And again, with every course, there's a final exam. When you take that final exam, you will get and pass it this, sort of like your Geodesy for drone surveying certificate. These are good for 2 years because we're going to refresh the content probably before every 2 years. So as the industry changes and evolves, you can come back and take the exam again for the updated information and refresh your certificate. With everybody who's signing up for this, you're going to get lifetime access to this. Once all this stuff, the promo period is over, we're going to only give companies like 2 years access at a time. Then they'll have to pay like a small amount to kind of like renew their certificates. You get this. If you wanted to add it to your LinkedIn profile, you literally just click that. Once you're done, it automatically adds it all here. And when you save it, people can click on the certificate and it brings them here so they can see, well, what is it that this person has? Oh, well, they've passed this exam with an 80% or higher. It's got all the information about them. We're a verified certificate issuer through Certifier. You can put this badge on your website. So this is like a level 2 course. If we go over here, the GNSS and survey control is a level 3 course. And we have one of these for each of those courses. Now there is our advanced drone mapping and modeling certification program. So you start off with a Geodesy course, you get that, GNSS positioning, advanced drone mapping for construction and engineering, all of these. And you'll finally, if you complete all 5 of those, you get your advanced drone mapping and modeling certification, which you can display on your site. And these are listed for all the people who have received them in our credentials list. So any employer can come back here and validate that you have actually received that certificate. Let me go back here. So if they want to see, is this real? They can validate your credential. It checks to make sure that we're an actual verified issuer and that this is a valid, unique credential to you. So that's there and validated. Another cool thing is, I like this system. They have this QR code here. So you print this off. If anybody scans this QR code, it will bring them to this page and they can see all this information about you and what you got and all the different things you've learned. So demonstrated competence in datums, coordinate systems, reference frames, geodetic principles. So the goal with this is to be able to display. So first off, the first goal is learn, right? Understand how to do this stuff, and then provide confidence to the people that you're going to be working with, employers, companies that you're doing services for, to say, hey, I've learned this. I've been tested by a third-party organization, and I have these certificates, and I have this, proof that I'm knowledgeable and have passed exams on this stuff. And you can display that on your website, on LinkedIn, wherever else you want. So I thought this was a nice system that's a public facing thing that people can go to at any point. That's third party to validate your credentials and your certificates. And this is the first time we're ever launching this. So our next goal is go out to companies that are hiring for engineers, surveyors, and those types of people and say, hey, do you want your people to have this, to make sure that they're up to a level that they need to be? Because even Nate was telling me, he's like, a lot of people in our company, they need training on this stuff and they need to know it. Originally, he offered to teach the course for free. He's like, I'll teach it for free if I can get access to these courses for my own people so that they can get trained up in this stuff, because a lot of them need the help on this stuff. And I was like, dude, first off, I'm going to pay you. But we can work something out. So that is, so that's the program. If you're interested in it, again, if you're like, nah, this is not my speed, I'm just here to see what's going on, totally fine. If you're at the beginning and you're like, I don't know about mapping as much yet, but I still want to do this program, we have a drone mapping and modeling fundamentals course that you should probably take if you don't know much about photogrammetry or mapping. It's taught by me and Root. If you go to this link, mappingdeal.com, and you go there, there's like an option to add that course. We're giving half off for that course as well. So you can add that course in if you just want to take advantage of the deal, get all this information, start with the drone mapping modeling fundamentals course, work through that, and then you should be perfectly set up to go work through Geodesy, GNSS positioning and survey control, construction engineering, all that stuff. By the time you get done with that, we should have the 3D modeling one done, and you can be completely done with the certificate program and have that. So if you are serious about doing drone mapping and modeling, I can say with full conviction, this will help you do what you need to do. I literally just got people who are in the field every day working on this stuff, doing this stuff, saying, hey, here's what we actually use, and here's how to get it, and here's what we want from drone service providers and the data we use on a regular basis. So that's a program. We can dive into Q&A stuff now. I just wanted to get that out there since we've been telling people for a while. I've been getting emails from people like, hey, I want to get this. Can I? When are you going to release the discounts? When does this look, what does this look like? So here it is. There you go. Let's talk about Q&A. All right. Because I know you probably have a lot of questions. And again, the deal is good till Friday. The first 15 people get the private group coaching with me, Nate, and Root. All right, Q&A. What do we got? Let's look at some. I'll just grab the ones that I can see. Logan, you can 100% write off the course. You can write off any kind of continuing education expense, education, equipment, travel. These are all ordinary and necessary business expenses for sure. Okay. Course prerequisites. So you have to know something about photogrammetry. This assumes that how to go out and fly an automated mission and do basic photogrammetry, at least at the 2D level, which is what we teach in our drone mapping modeling fundamentals course. A lot of people already know how to do that if they've got some experience. If you're considering this, you may already have experience doing that. So if you're comfortable with that, great. If not, I would start with the drone mapping modeling fundamentals course. That's the only prereq you need. Drones that are acceptable. Again, if you're going to take this really seriously and start working for these bigger companies, you will likely want more sophisticated equipment. You might want your own GNSS receivers eventually. Yes. You might want your own sort of Mavic 3 Enterprise, which now you could probably get them used for a little cheaper, but they're still going to be several $1,000s to get, right? If you want to have a business doing it on a regular basis, you're going to want that. But you can get started with this with a Mini 3 for those are $400. Now, those are smaller sensors. You have to fly lower. You're not going to be able to do big sites, but you can do small to reasonably sized sites with that drone as long as you have good ground control. Maybe you're working with a surveyor. You could get started with that. And you can definitely do regular orthos with that. A little step up from there, but still not enterprise grade, is the Air 2S drone. It's got a bigger sensor on it. You can maybe fly a little larger sites. That drone's probably about $800 or $900 used. They don't make them actively anymore. But then from there, you're going to probably do a bigger leap up to the Mavic 3 Enterprise, probably get that RTK module. And that thing is a workhorse. That's used on all these enterprise sites already. And that can do everything you want it to do. But that's probably going to be $4,000, give or take. So you can work up to that. But if you're going to be doing this stuff, if these jobs are paying you $8-10,000 to do these larger sites, it's worth eventually investing in that equipment. Okay. All right, let me pull that down. All right. What else we got? Steve's already got the M43 on board. Oh, nice. M43 or Matrice 4E. That's a great drone.
Yes.
How many GCPs? You always need at least, usually
6.
5. 5 and more. Yeah. But larger sites get.
I use mine minimum is 6. Every time
6.
I go on a site, 6 is a minimum.
Yeah.
5 is perfect. I mean, if you have 5, you can use 5. But I've used some of the bigger projects, I've used 10, 12 on the big projects to really make that time. I mean, after certain GCPs, it just get unnecessary. But I think 5, 6, 7 is a good number to have.
Only unnecessary if it's small. If you have a lot of elevation changes on the site that you need to make sure you have locked in, or if it's a large site, you're going to want to, again, have something towards the corners. And then in areas that you're I have to have this elevation locked in, or there's a big change. I want to make sure my map is accurate or model in between those. you're going to want GCPs at those areas as well. What drone do you recommend for mapping and surveying starting out? Again, if you're like just learning, get the Mini 3. It's like $450. Can do a lot of stuff. You can start off with that. Again, if you're going to start doing these enterprise jobs, once you get the income, you're going to want to probably upgrade to make your life easier. You can fly those jobs way faster. Your stuff will be a little bit more accurate, especially with RTK. But yeah.
Mavic 3 Enterprise is a good place to start if you are serious about this and actually want to start delivering to the clients. But if you want to learn, start with what you have and learn, acquire the skills, and deliver some to clients. And when you get your first client, invest in the drone, actually do it.
Mavic 2 Pro is probably equivalent to like the like Phantom 4 Pro. That's kind of in between that Air 2S and the Mavic 3 Enterprise, but you can certainly get started with that. I've mapped a pond for 2 years as practice. I don't know exactly what you did with the pond. Were you doing like elevations and contours? Also, water is pretty hard to map. So
yes,
I would say it's a good start, but you probably want to try to get some other experience as well. Older Mavic Pro, I don't know. Actually, maybe those work with. You probably need to upgrade.
It's good for practices and getting started. But if you want to deliver to the client, you need something professional. Just like, if you start a photography business, your phone has a camera, you can start learning taking picture with your phone, but no client's going to hire you if you have just the phone, like you need the,
Yes. I'm sorry. Al, you called it. This is our next step. So we're also working. The next step we're going to do is work on getting these courses to be recognized continuing education credits for engineering licenses and survey licenses. That varies by state. So we'll probably start doing state by state, probably start with like Texas, Florida, like some of the big ones, California. But that is our goal, is to make these to be continuing education credits for surveyors and engineers. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but let's see here. Are GCP just flat targets or data/signals? No, they're just usually flat targets that you can see from the ground. You can get a very precise point that you would then measure that point with usually a GNSS receiver to get those coordinates. I actually gave you a free class. So if you go back and watch those day 1, 2, 3 videos, I gave you a free lesson in our GNSS and survey control course. It talks about GCPs and the different types and how to lay them out and all that stuff. Are the GCPs from Propeller with built-in GPS worth the investment? Well, Kiewit uses them, Nate. So we show how to use them actually in the construction and engineering course. They're nice if you have certain use cases for them. If you're using the Propeller ecosystem, they integrate them really nicely. Usually these big enterprise businesses have the budget for them. I'd say if you're a drone service provider, I haven't seen many drone service providers use them because they're pretty expensive. But if you're like a huge construction company who's doing this stuff all the time, you can throw them out on your site, it makes sense for them. Maybe not as much for like a DSP, but drone service provider. How would we buy each course individually? Yes, good question. So tomorrow we're gonna have those links live on our site. I would just write down the code here. It's the same code for all of these courses. So tomorrow we'll give you links directly to those other courses if you just want to buy one. And you can do that, and they'll be live on the site tomorrow. And you just use that promo code to get those these price deals. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Other questions? Can you sign up for the fundamentals course and do it in a few months? So you have lifetime. So this is lifetime access to all of these. In the future, we're just going to do 2-year limits, and then it'll be like a smaller fee for like these companies to renew. But everybody here is lifetime. Drone mapping and modeling fundamentals course, always lifetime. You can get through that course in probably a few weeks if you wanted to. That's realistic. We show how to do different types of construction progress updates over time. And then for that course, we also show a parking lot redesign plan. So a restaurant asked us to come out and do some scenarios for how they were going to redesign their parking lots. So we did a 2D map for them and mocked that up with some line work just as like illustration purposes so they could see some different options. It's not geo-referenced. It's not like survey grade. They were just like curious to see what traffic flow options they might have. So that's what we do in that course. Air 3S. I don't think that one works yet with like Drone Link and some of those other software platforms. So That one, I don't believe so. But if anybody's wondering like, hey, will this drone work? Will this drone work? From just a compatibility perspective, if you go to dronelink.com and click compatible drones, if it's compatible there, it should work, at least for the flight automation portion. Now, that doesn't mean it's like the best enterprise drone. I think we've been talking about that. Like the best enterprise drones are going to be like your Mavic 3 Enterprise, Matrice 4 Enterprise. But you can get started with a Mini 3 or an Air 2S. Those would be the main ones. Will these courses satisfy state's requirement for my survey work? We'll have to look into Oregon specifically, but we're going to be working on getting state by state to make these continuing education, professional development hours for those. So more to come on that later, but not at the moment. If we paid for the live course, oh, yes. If you were in the live group that went through this, I think we had 35 people go through that group. We will add all of these courses to your account probably starting tomorrow morning. So you should see the first 4 courses in there. Okay. Don't engineers and survey companies require degrees in this field? If you are the one designing the engineering plans, or if you are the one that's putting your stamp on the survey for like the initial establishing survey control, yes. But if you're just collecting aerial data and working alongside them, then no.
I don't have a degree in survey, but I work with many survey companies and deliver the data that they need. Again, I'm not signing off any reports or making the final product. I'm just giving them data for them to verify and use that data to actually perform the survey.
So, I mean, listen, it's kind of what you make it, right? So if you want to work with them, if you learn this information, you can go out and capture this data however you want. You can approach a survey firm and say, hey, listen, I know how to do this stuff. I have these certifications. Let me just go out and I'll fly one of your projects. And then you can get your field crews to take check shots, which basically they go through and they'll get different types of shots and points from around the map. And they'll compare the points that they actually got, the coordinates that they got. They'll compare that to what your map is saying, and they can see how accurate it is. And we teach that inside the course on how to do that stuff. And then you can go to them and say, listen, I'll go out there and fly it. Then you can go do your check shots and look at the accuracy. And if my data is garbage, we don't have to talk. But if you can see what I do and you can see that's within good tolerances and I can, help you, then great. Like people just want to know, can you help me? Right. And if you do it at a no risk way for them, that's great. Obviously, if you have surveying experience, that helps build trust and credibility, but no one has that experience when they start. So you got to start somewhere. Logan, all right. What's up, man? Hope you're in the first 15. Yeah. I appreciate you joining. As long as you do the work at the final survey checks and stamp from a registered surveyor, you can do all the work. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So North Carolina is pretty restrictive for what they consider surveying products. So if you're in North Carolina and you're doing this type of work, you typically want to be working a lot of times you're going to be working in conjunction with an engineer or surveyor anyways. But in North Carolina, you definitely want to make sure that you're like, hey, the surveyor is the one who's like collecting control and maybe they may need to be have some final say on the final product that gets delivered, which is basically what Root's doing anyways. But yeah. All right, what else we got? Does the Matrice 4E require also buying the RTK package? I don't have the Matrice 4E. I don't know if it requires you, but I think is it built in the Matrice 4E?
Yeah. Yes. I believe so.
RTK?
I haven't flown it, but I think if you buy the enterprise version, it comes with the RTK cap.
I have a Mavic 3 Enterprise with RTK. Beautiful. Yes, you need GCPs. Yes. RTK is going to help get your images in the correct position pretty closely. But as you'll see in some of these courses, we compared some accuracy to say RTK with no GCPs and then RTK with GCPs, and it does make a difference. RTK is not, it helps, but it's not going to make it survey grade accuracy with no ground control points. You always need ground control points. You do not always need RTK or PPK. Okay. If you want it to be like, absolute accuracy aligned with the real world. But the fact you have a Mavic 3E is great. You're like most of the way there. Equipment aside, what other entry costs can one expect? I assume the software isn't free and assume there are levels of the software from basic to enterprise. Yeah. So there's different ones you can utilize. You can do something like drone deploy. I mean, they're all fairly none of them are super cheap. I think maybe one of the best deals is Virtual Surveyor. So
Yes.
they have one. You have to have a PC to be able to process it. I think they said that, like a PC to do mapping work on, like a desktop, or I know some people have laptops that are pretty powerful. You're probably looking at $1,200 on a machine that can handle onboard processing of this data. Now, Drone Deploy will do it all in the cloud. You could do, if you did Pix4D Cloud Advanced, there will do processing in the cloud. You can do that with ground control points. But Pix4D Surveyor starts around, there's a free version of it if you can get your ortho mosaic done somewhere else. But their $150 a month version will process your ortho and allow you to do a lot of these contour maps, line work, all these
A lot
different
of
like
line work,
survey,
yes. I
all the
actually
survey
use it
deliverables.
for, I actually use a virtual surveyor when we work with a
Yeah.
survey client. It's one of the best tools for surveying.
So all the survey deliverables you can do in Virtual Surveyor, including processing the data.
Yes.
So and that's 150 months. So that might be the most affordable to get into. But again, you can spend as much money as you want on these things. But again, just when you start getting clients, get the software you need for that. A lot of them have trials like DJI Terra or whatever. But then if you're going to be getting this work, this stuff, they know that all of this software is expensive. I mean, shoot, some of these GNSS receivers that these high-end construction companies use, these Trimble ones, they're 30 grand for one GNSS receiver on a rod. So like this world, they know stuff is expensive, software is expensive, stuff like that. So they're used to paying higher prices for these jobs. What ground GNSS receiver do you suggest? MLID, Trimble. MLID, in my opinion, is going to be your best bet
To start with. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well, even like when you're doing drone photogrammetry and stuff, even if you get really pretty close to the ground with like a really accurate ground sample distance, you're never going to get it a whole lot more accurate than, let's say, a centimeter or two.
Yes.
And with the MLID receivers, that's about how accurate they are anyways. So if you're going to get a $30,000 Trimble receiver and get it like within 2 millimeters of accuracy or something, right? Like leveling and all this stuff, that's great. But if your actual drone data, like with the pixels, can only give you 2 centimeters of accuracy anyways, it's kind of like buying a $50,000 hammer to hammer a $1 nail. You know what I'm saying? So you can buy a GNSS receiver from MLID. Like their MLID RS2 is probably like $2,000. And that is going to give you the accuracy you probably need for doing this work. Again, a lot of times you're going to be working with other survey teams and they're going to collect the control for you, and they're going to hand you an Excel sheet with all of the data that you need to integrate into your stuff. Like that's what happens with Root all the time. Nate says that in the course, we show you how they collect that data. So if you do need to understand how to shoot those points, you should be able to do that. But again, that's usually more for like survey techs, field crews, surveyors doing that stuff. But if there's a client that's like, hey, I understand you're not a surveyor. Can you just go maybe validate these points, see if you're getting the same thing we got, something like that? That's about how much that equipment costs. Correct. Yeah, for the 4 courses, and the 5th one is not out yet. It's going to be the same sort of like deal as this, so it'll be regular price $799. If you want just that course, it'll be $499, and then if you bought the bundle, it'll be less than $499. Whatever the effective discount is for this, I think it ends up being like somewhere in the ballpark of $350 if you do part of the bundle, somewhere in there. So if you were one of the bundle people, you can add it for that. But if you just want to buy it as a standalone, it's like that. Okay. And the guy who's teaching that, Ted, he just got hired to do a bridge inspection 3D model of the bridge that connects Canada and the United States. He's doing the Canadian half. Pretty cool. All right. Looking for a better mapping drone than the Mini 3 Pro. Question about drone bans. Will it happen? I don't know. Maybe in a year. Like, it keeps going back and forth all the time.
Yes.
Might get you could always get like a used M3E, but could you, I think this is a statement, but yes, that is true. But you would probably need ground control as well. Is there a price for the advanced 3D modeling digital? Oh, there we go. I just gave you that information. Building a monster render station right now to run any program. Thought the salesman hype I've been getting. You can talk to Root. Depends on what you want to do. Ted Strazimiri is also a great guy. He's on LinkedIn. You could ping him there probably. He could tell you he's used every single software out under the sun. We talked about that one. I would go with the MLID, probably RS2 to start. They have the new RS3 out. I have one of those, but it has just some like fancier features like the tilt compensation and some of that kind of stuff that is nice, makes it faster, but you don't have to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. You probably need like Scott, I wish I gave you a better answer on this. Maybe I could look at it and get back to you. Are mapping and surveying companies moving to U.S.-made drones? Not all of them.
Yes.
Especially definitely for the government work for
government
sure.
work, yes.
Government work for sure. I still see a lot of people using DJI stuff.
I use
right now.
DJI. We've used DJI for 99% of the project, for what we've done. So
yeah. When are you able to purchase this cost, and will you be providing more information on job pricing? Do you want to give some examples of job pricing that you know about, Root, for how you've been how do you approach pricing when an engineering firm comes to you and says, hey, we need you to do this work? What do you typically think about and look at?
So I'm basically now moving towards first, I would get the understanding of how big the job is. My approach was a lot different before, but working with this company, it has a lot refined. So now I understand what's involved in the job first. So what are the deliverables they're looking for? Is it too complicated? And I'm going to give you examples. So for example, if it's a job that's going to take me 3 hours to be on the site collecting the data, that's like a full day. It's a half day, but it's a whole day in preparation. You got to do the GZP, set it up, all of that. So I would charge per whole day. So I would do like hourly, whatever your rate is, 250, 150, depending on your skill that you want to charge, that you feel comfortable. You can do hourly, and then what's involved in the processing that data, delivering that data. So same hourly. So it would, after, working hundreds and hundreds of projects, I know exactly how long it will take me to do that. I would add another day or two just for the buffer, and I would do hourly pricing and give that. Before I used to do acres and all of that, but now I have refined the pricing of doing hourly, how long it will take me. So 250 per hour versus how many days involved in it, what's the deliverables are. So that's a pricing that I do for surveying. But if it's a pricing for other specific kind of project, it's all depend on the project. But yes, pricing is the most question that I get.
Cool. Let me address this real quick. So we will say this. I'm still working on the I'll say this. If you get this stuff and you're like, I can't handle this, or this is too much, or whatever, we'll give you 30 day. We have a 30-day refund policy on this stuff right now. So go try it for 30 days and go through the content. The only thing is, if you go all the way through and you get your certification, you pass the final exam, we get charged when you get issued a certificate because we use that third-party validation company. So if you do all that and you go get all the certifications and put them on your LinkedIn, I won't give you a refund because now that cost us money and you've already done everything. But if you're going in there and you just are looking at the content, you're going through it, seeing if it's right for you, we'll give you a 30 days money back policy. So just have a month, look through it, see if Oregon will take it as your continuing education credits. Reach out to me. I'm happy to try to help if they need documentation or syllabuses or whatever. But yeah, if you want to do the courses, we'll definitely work with you on that. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, someone asked about software with Mac. Almost every photogrammetry processing software, it all runs on Mac. If you're doing the Pix4D Survey, Pix4D Mapper, Pix4D Matic, Virtual Surveyor, those run on a local machine or WebODM. They run on a local computer. Usually you need an NVIDIA graphics card to run it. If you're doing Pix4D Cloud, you don't need any fancy computer. Drone Deploy, they'll do the processing. Propeller, they do the cloud processing. So you don't need a crazy machine to do that. But unfortunately, they're all Windows based. Okay. Well, WebODM is free, or at least OpenDroneMap is free. It's a little obviously more tricky to work. It is good for most applications. It's got a limitation when it comes to being able to correct your control points. So let's say it didn't pick up all the control points correctly, and you want to go back and you want to manually select certain tie points to tell the software, hey, here are the common pixels in each of these photos. Because sometimes, especially in 3D modeling, I've only seen this issue happen mostly in like 3D models, where it just doesn't reconstruct it correctly because it can't find the tie points, like where the photos fit together. In a lot of these other software applications, you can go through and you can manually sort of adjust and correct it so it can reconstruct the data correctly. WebODM doesn't have that feature, but otherwise, it's probably the best free mapping software if you can handle the technical part of it and provide. It's a little bit of technical knowledge to know how to set up, but all right. Sorry, I'm going down here. Let's see. How well did the mapping techniques in the program adapt to real-time field work like search and rescue? Not so much search and rescue in this. This is, I mean, I don't think they use mapping a lot for search and rescue. Normally
I
using like a
think
thermal to find people.
I remember when the Pix4D launched Pix4D Rapid or something few years ago, and actually they use mapping. I know the drone deploys real-time mapping, like a modeling that's happening in real time. They've used it before, but it's a very few example I've seen, one or two example I've seen that actually worked. But it's a good thing to look into because I see whenever Pix4D, that was a couple of years ago, they launched something like Pix4D Rapid in map that like processes the map instantly and gives the search and rescue people the. So for example, there is a terrain that they want to locate where the guy is, or uh, if someone is lost there. I've seen that they do that. I have to look more into it, but please look it up, Pix4D Rapid or something. I don't remember exactly the name, but they launched a few years ago.
Chad, what's up, Chad? So we got weather. I don't know what the word is. Basically, I went to Canada, and then the weather didn't cooperate for us to be able to do the field data collection portion. So I talked to Ted Strazamiri, 3D modeling course instructor. He is going out next week to do the field capture for this new bridge. And then he's going to go back and do all that processing. So he said he can give me all of the files, the remaining video files, by the mid-April. We'll finish putting them together. And the plan is to release it in May. So unless a blizzard happens up by Detroit and Toronto, that schedule should hold. But some of it is weather dependent. So that's the deal there.
Yeah.
What's up, Jeremy? Remember you. Is that offer the same for the basic course? So we have the drone mapping model fundamentals course. If you want to do this and you want to add the fundamentals course, there's like a button when you're checking out to click that and add that fundamentals course in there if you want to start with that. Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I haven't messed around with much with WebODM, but it's free if you install it with the command line, or you can buy the installer for $60. Not a bad idea. Do I trust cloud-based processing with sensitive data? I do know some people that do mapping for like secretive government things, and they're a little bit picky about that. But I'll tell you this, like Kiewit, largest construction or one of the largest in North America. Again, billions and billions of projects. They have 400 to 500 active mapping projects. They use Propeller. It's cloud for all their stuff. So a lot of these companies, they'll have data security policies and encryption, all that stuff that they to keep that data secure. You're used to working with infrastructure projects, so they're going to have the same security requirements across a lot of this. David, thank you for the kind words. So I'm going to keep going. Blue List drones, I recommend. The best person to listen to about this, our GNSS positioning and survey control instructor, Chris Breedlove, is actually the new host of our Your Drone Questions Answered podcast. And he did a whole podcast episode on this, and it's also a YouTube video. So go to our YouTube channel. He did a whole breakdown of what the differences are and which ones are on each. Okay. Let's see here. I'm not sure what you mean by 1550 total. So I think here's the if you're going to add the digital twins course afterwards, I think it brings this up to the plan was to bring it up to 1500. So I guess it's only an extra 300 for that course. Sorry. 300. If you're buying the full bundle and you're adding that one when it comes out in May, it'll be 300. If you're going to buy it individually, it's 5. If you're going to buy it on a random Tuesday in June, it'll be 8. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you said here. Yep. So sorry, an extra 300 if you buy the bundle. If not, you can get it for 5. Software platforms. I think we mentioned this. So the ones, this course is not meant to be like, here's a specific tutorial on this exact software platform, just because there are so many to use. Different companies use different ones, but they all essentially do similar things. Buttons are in different places. Maybe settings are a little different, but the general process you follow of data capture and collection, processing your data, using survey control information, checking your quality reports with your accuracy and your error tolerances, all of that is basically going to be the same in each of these softwares. So throughout the course, you will see DJI Terra. You're going to see Pix4D Survey. You're going to see Pix4D Mapper. You are going to see, what's some other ones we did? I think we look a little bit at Trimble Business Center, Propeller, like Propeller Arrow. And then 3D modeling and mapping, well, they use Metashape. They use Bentley, context capture, and then reality capture. Reality capture is actually a free software now.
Free software, yes.
If you have the computer run it. So you'll get access, you'll get exposure to a ton of different platforms. Like, hey, now we're going to process this data in this software. Hey, now actually we're going to go to this software and show you what it looks like over here when you do this type of thing here. We're testing you for the certifications at the end on the knowledge you've gained. So they're just multiple choice questions. Otherwise, we'd be grading projects for days and days and days. And people would be like, well, I don't have this software. Well, I don't have this. So we are testing you on the concepts. Do you know the information? Do you know the knowledge of how to do this, regardless of what software platform you may or may not be in? If you can use one photogrammetry tool, you should be able to use another one. Maybe the button's in a different spot, or the way you pull a contour map might be a little bit different, but essentially are doing the same things, providing the same type of, they all provide the same type of export data, like the same deliverables. You're going to get a GeoTIFF file, you're going to get an OBJ file, you're going to get a tin surface. All of these things are the same in each of these software platforms.
Yeah. D,
previously purchased fundamentals course. You're looking at the discounts right now, D. This is about as good as it's going to get here. It's about half off of what all the normal prices are. The podcast, it's called Your Drone Questions Answered. You can go on our YouTube channel, find it. It's actually a podcast that's been going on for over a year, maybe a year and a half. Chris Breedlove just took over as the host. Our old host had to step down to focus on his current full-time job. So now one of our mapping instructors is the new host. So some of this content actually is shifted a little bit more mapping focused. Okay. Let's see. Rob, follow up with us. Maybe we can work something out with you if you want to get on this later. I don't want to mess you up on that. Jay, any recommendations for finding clients? So this is really focused on teaching you the technical skills that you need to be useful to these companies. There's a whole nother set of skills that comes if you want to be a good business person. But recommendations are just reach out to survey firms, call them, cold email, and say, hey, again, it'll help you. If you don't have the experience, you can at least have these certifications to say, hey, I've got an advanced drone mapping and modeling certification. I've taken exams on this stuff. I know what I'm doing. Can I kind of do a sample data set for you? I think that will increase your chances of getting a yes versus just being total random guy calling them. They have no knowledge of if you actually know what you're talking about. So the goal of this is to give other people who don't know you a certain level of trust with you that, hey, someone else has validated their knowledge in this area.
I would like to add to that. So to get the clients, first you develop the skills, then make a list with your skills, what problems you can solve, and then make a list who has those problems, and then reach out to them, see how you can help them solve those problems. Those are the steps to go. So develop the skills, make a list of the problem you can solve with it, make a list of the people you can solve the problem for, and then reach out to them, have a conversation with them. That's the basic. There is a lot more detail, but that's the basic. Develop the skills first. That's the most important thing.
Yep. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. Justin, yeah, if you buy each course, this funds allow. Yeah, you can do this, and you can go piece by piece if you want. We just give a disc. It's just a group discount, a quantity discount, right? Hey, if you want to get the whole program, we'll give you the biggest discount. But if you want to go course by course as you can get it, if you go, in here, just going to do this real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So all the system is looking for is, have you gotten the Geodesy for drone surveying certification with an 80% or higher? Cool, check. Have you gotten this one? Yes, check. Have you gotten this one? And once you get all 5, it automatically grants you this certificate here. If you go to, so I just did a test one since we just launched this, right? So this is me. This is what it'll look like. Anybody can come here and look at credentials. This is a public site. This just says Credverse, but really it's creds.dronelaunchacademy.com. This is just sort of like the test backend. If you click in here, I can see for David Young, here are the credentials that he has. Here's the pathway that he has. I can click here. I can see that David Young has completed 2 of the 5 credentials. He's done Geodesy for drone surveying. He's done GNSS positioning and survey control. And then when I get these 3, it'll grant me this last one automatically. And then if I were to click in here, oh, that just collapses it. Yeah, if I click on, oh, what's the certification? I can click here and it shows my certificate. I can download the certificate if I want, print it off, put it somewhere, put this on your website, and then you can actually link. If you go put this on, the problem with putting stuff on your website is people are like, well, what does that mean? I don't know what this is, So if you put this on your website, you can link back to this page, your credential page, and then people will see, oh, what is this? Oh, that means they have passed an exam where they know GNSS fundamentals, basin rover setup, RTK, PPK. Here's some skills they have. They passed an exam. They can validate your credential, all this stuff, right? So it just provides like a third-party place where they can check that out. Oh, let me share this. All right, more questions. Sorry. It kind of depends on which thing you're doing. GeoTIFF files are huge. You can export the TIN services. Those are smaller.
So I actually learned recently that GeoTIFF files are big after we create the surveys. Like now we've been doing like a big survey, 300 acres and plus. From using Global Mapper, which is another software that we can reduce the size and export that GeoTIFF as JPEG 2000, and it significantly reduces the size but keeps the quality, and that makes it a lot easier to import into AutoCAD as a background of the surveys and stuff. But yeah, you can use QGIS, which is a free software, to reduce the deliverable size, because that's important. One thing that I learned, that you want to keep the size as low as possible but the quality as high as possible, and there are ways to do it.
Someone asked, can you take the test a second time? Yes. So you can retake the exams. I thought about putting a limit on it, but I don't want to do that. The whole goal is to learn the material and pass the exams. So you can retake the exams until you pass them. Originally, we were going to give you the full score report, but then I realized, oh, that just tells you all the answers, and you could print that out, and then you could cheat. I don't want that. I want this to be something that you actually have to learn to do so that other people trust it. Because if you can just cheat on it, no one's going to actually trust that this credential means anything or the certificate means anything. So you'll take your test, you'll get your score. You can see, I think, which questions you got wrong so that you can know what to go study for. And then you can go back and you can take it again until you score an 80% or higher. The goal is to allow you to continue learning until you get that certification. Scott, I think, did you just address file size, or should we dive in more to that?
Yeah, I just said
Okay.
about the file sizes. But if you have any specific question, or if you feel like haven't answered your question directly, you can always reach out to me. I try my best to help people out. So you can go to the website. It's on my name, rutpatel.com. There is a way to connect with me. So ask away.
How would you equip yourself to jump in as a private contractor in a way that enables you to do what's required for the bulk of the calls that you get from clients? I think you need to be able to, we've covered a lot of it tonight. You need to be able to create detailed, georeferenced orthomosaic images. So photogrammetry with a drone that you can tie back to survey control, even if you don't have RTK or something. RTK is a bonus, but if you don't have it, as long as you have it tied to real world survey control and you understand coordinate systems and you can work with these people intelligently, I mean, that's, if you learn the method,
understanding, yes.
if you learn the methods, let me just give you a little thing here. So Ted Strasmere, real smart guy, he's done a lot of like infrastructure inspections, bridge inspections, um, a lot of mapping work, photogrammetry, LiDAR stuff. He's never done the object of what he was mapping, has never done a lot of like power line, transmission line stuff. But he was like, yeah, there was a big RFP for this and I wanted to go do it. So like they just wanted to see examples of those things. He didn't have to learn any new techniques. They just wanted to see the power lines as the object of what he was mapping. But he's like, it's the same thing. Whether if you know how to draw, you can draw a mountain or a barn. You know what I mean? It's like that's not the hard part. The hard part is learning how to get this stuff and make it accurate to the real world and understand the coordinates and how to work with these people. I'm sorry. Now I see this minimum equipment software setup. I would say if you really want to do it seriously, you need a Mavic 3 Enterprise with RTK. Like if you want to make a job out of this, Mavic 3 Enterprise with RTK, and then some type of machine desktop that can process data. So equipment wise, if you're wanting to make a job out of it, you're probably like $5,000 to $6,000 in equipment, you know what I mean, in computers, and then whatever software you decide to get. But again, if you really wanted to start off smaller, use cloud processing services, use a Air 2S or something at first, or you can just rent Mavic 3 Enterprises. So if you have a specific job, rent one for like a few $100s and just bake it into the price of the job.
Yes.
And then send it back. I know Root's rented stuff. Other people I know have rented equipment a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of times, like other strictly numerical info, a lot of times they'll want like the TIN, the triangulated regular network data delivered as like an Excel file of coordinates and points, right?
Yeah. Mostly what I deliver to the surveyor is, of course, the images, DSM, and all of that, but the grid point. So what we would do, we would filter out the terrain and the non-terrain. So terrain, that's what the surveyors are interested in. That only has like the surface, whatever. So all the utilities are removed. So telephone poles are removed, all the trees, the buildings, everything removed, just a clean surface. And instead of giving that as the LAS point or the point cloud or anything like that, what we do is we create a grid, 5-foot grid, 15 or 50, whatever your client wants, and you export that as CSV file. So what it would include is the ID or the number of the point, the X data, X, Y, and the Z, the elevation. So northing, easting, and elevation. And we actually go through it in the course. How do you create the CSV file? What to give to the client?
Yeah, this is a good question. So fixed wing survey versus prop drones. So for most smaller sites, you can use something like Mavic 3 Enterprise, whatever. Those are pretty common. If you have long corridors or big areas, you can use a fixed wing drone. So in the construction and engineering course that Nate teaches, we actually fly that with a wingter drone. So he goes through that software, say, hey, here's how you set up a wingter mission. So here's how you use a fixed wing drone. Here's the differences. They kind of spin up and they have transition areas. There's a few more considerations because you have less control over them if you need to like move around an obstacle. It doesn't have any obstacle avoidance. So you have to make sure you're not going to like hit a tower. So we go through all that stuff, mission planning for fixed wing drones on larger sites. So that whole course is done with a wingter drone. You learn how to do the PPK processing and how all those workflows work. For the other courses, I believe we use drones. We use the M350 with LiDAR, so like the L2 and like the RGB camera. In another course, we use, I think Ted's using the Matrice 4 for the bridge inspection. He's also using a Skydio X10. You can compare those side by side. We use an Air 2S. We compare that to the Matrice 350 data so you can see how different they are if you don't use ground control, if you do. So again, try to use a pretty broad range of drones in there. And then even we use the Whisper sync, at least to show you how to connect. So we show you, look, hey, here's how to connect to the N-Trip network, which is like RTK, your correction sources on a M350. Hey, if you have a Whisper drone, here's like a different interface. Here's kind of how that looks, just to give you some more options and exposure to different things. Where do you rent drones? What's the place called? Blue Sky
Blue
something?
Skies Rental, and there are a few also other places in Florida that we rent from. So reach out to me. I'll give you that information.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just, a lot of these folks are first starting off, like, wing drones are expensive. They're, 40 plus grand. I think you can get a
We
used
did a
one for
project
10,
for the
15.
3 square miles. Remember, David, for the digital twin of City of Lakeland, we flew
Mhm.
the fixed wing drone for that. So
Yeah.
depending on the project, how big it is, yes.
Yep. Um, Sorry, Scott. Places to find enterprise drones. I mean, you just buy them new from DJI, but yeah, used might be a little tough because everybody loves the Mavic 3 Enterprise. So you can get them, but otherwise, maybe just try to rent them from. So the Blue Sky drone rentals will do it. Also, if you go to some of these survey equipment suppliers, there are, like, if you do like survey equipment rentals, they will rent like the GNSS receivers to you, and they'll also, many of them will rent you drones as well. Let's see what else, what other questions we got. So, is LiDAR and modules be added to standard drones? No, LiDAR is usually a sensor that you have to put onto a drone that has the capability for that. So usually that's like a Matrice 350, or there's the Wingtra drone has swappable payloads for LiDAR and stuff. LiDAR gets pretty expensive just for the sensor itself. The cheapest one you're going to find is like 15 grand, but LiDAR jobs also pay a lot more. So, but a lot of survey firms use LiDAR as well. How do you cover long corridors with fixed wing drones with respect to Volos? Not sure what Volos is. But it's just how you plan the flight path. I mean, you just do the corridor with the fixed wing drone. Oh, maybe he's saying BVLOS. Maybe that's what you meant to say. Yeah. So right now, the laws in the U.S. are that you have to be able to maintain line of sight. Luckily, the drone is orange, so it's pretty easy to see from a ways away. So you just break it up into chunks. Let's say you're doing like a roadway. Maybe you do like a mile at a time, mile or two,
Yeah.
depending on how far you can see. Do that, and then you're going to do your next flight plan for the next mile, fly that, and then you'll combine the data sets once you get back to the office. Sorry, I got you, Rob. Visual line of sight. Have you or can you combine drone photogrammetry data with ground-based LiDAR collection data, or are you ill-equipped without both? Yes, you can. And Ted actually goes into this in the 3D modeling course. It's he found them. He did a Leica laser scanner, and then he did a 3D capture of a structure to compare how accurate they were. And relative accuracy wise, like measuring distances, they were both very, very close. It was just the scale was a little bit different. So if you use something called April tags, like basically like GCPs for like what kind of, like, it helps you find tie points on the building. That allows you to adjust the scale, and they're almost like dead on. There was like very, very little differences, but you can do that in reality capture. You can combine LiDAR scan data with photogrammetry. What is something that you wish you had documented or captured earlier on in your drone journey that helped build credibility later? I mean, case studies are perfect for, like anything, right? So if you do a job, you do a good job, and you say, hey, I helped them reduce their field work. Like I saw a study that showed there was a site where the field work took a 2-man crew 6 hours, and a drone operator was able to fly it in like 18 minutes or something. So the processing time is going to be the same. Like, you're going to have to go back to the office and process data, but it's just like such a drastic reduction in actually collecting the information. So if you can show those types of things, that kind of experience, case studies are super helpful. Let's see what else we got here. Cheap end of rover, like a GNSS rover receiver, probably the MLID is the best to go. You can use those, MLID Reach RS2. If you only want the rover or something that can connect to N-Trip, they have their Reach RX. It's like really small. I have one over here. You can't use that as like a base station. So if you're trying to use it to broadcast RTK corrections to your drone, you can't do that. and you can't it's called logging static data. Basically, you set up your GNSS receiver and you let it just receive raw satellite data for like a few hours every second. That allows you to get like a really, really good known point that you can use to base your like other rover like observations off of. But I'd say probably the MLID like RS2 or RS3 is the best option for that. And those are like 2,000, 2,500, something like that. So best person at Drone Launch to discuss at a later time the different softwares any new render station will be here next week. Are you talking about for like 3D modeling or for mapping? I mean, you can always email us or me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com. I can definitely try to help. Reputable U.S. drone manufacturers. They're always going to be more expensive because they're U.S. made, but it depends what you mean by reputable. Skydio makes a pretty good drone for like the 3D model capture. I've seen it in action. It actually is pretty cool. A lot of people don't like them because of the other stuff they have going on. And it's like their stuff's really expensive. But their product does some cool stuff with 3D scanning. There are some other ones like Whisper drones. I know that people use those for mapping, but again, they're going to be more expensive. Anzu, yeah, again, they're an American company, but they manufacture in Malaysia. And there's been a little, people have argued whether or not, like how connected they are to DJI, but
yeah,
I know that their founder is a good dude. You are welcome, Jay. Thank you. Complete. Sweet. Any other questions? I know we got still over 100 people on here. What other questions you got? We're here to answer your questions. We've been on here for 2 hours. Can't believe you guys have hung on this long. It's great. Let me know if you get more questions. Otherwise, we can wrap it up. You guys. So again, if you were one of the first 15 to get in, you'll have a private group call with Nate and Root. Nate is going to again do another Q&A session on Thursday night. I'll ask him questions, but he can talk more about all these different deliverables. And this deal is good till Friday. But yeah, here's another one. Do construction firms use any non-survey accuracy drone services these days? Yes. A lot of stuff for like progress updates. So like any type of marketing photos, they use them. Even big firms use update videos, marketing photos, just simple orthos for like project planning. Like, hey, give me a top-down map. We're going to print it off on our big printers and we're going to put it in the trailer because every morning they'll have like a meeting. They'll be like, all right, who's where? Hey, your stuff is in the way. We need to do this project. They use a lot for like project coordination. And that stuff doesn't have to be like GCPs, georeference. They just need a detailed map of the entire area.
Inspections. Yeah,
inspections often don't. Yeah, it's like where it is on the globe often doesn't matter. Where it comes into play where you need like the absolute accuracy, where it needs to be pinned down perfectly coordinate wise, is when you're bringing other people's data in there. Like this person has a design, like a finished grade design, and I need to lay the other current surface on top of it. Or, hey, here is a map of where all the utilities are, and I want to lay that on top of my ortho to map everything out. Like that's where you need everything to line up perfectly. But if you just want to see, are there cracks in the concrete, you don't need like necessarily the exact coordinate system to do that.
Great questions, by the way. I gotta say,
yes. If time-wise, you can easily undercut ground-based survey costs if properly equipped. You heck yeah. Honestly, if every survey firm isn't using drones in the next, I would say 5 years, they will struggle to stay in business, because what's going to happen is they're all going to start either hiring service providers to do the drone work, or they're going to try to do it themselves or whatever. And now all of them are going to be able to do it faster, more efficiently. And if you're the one that doesn't, people will adjust their prices accordingly to compete with each other, like free market. And if you can't figure out how to do your stuff faster, you will not be able to compete price-wise, and you will struggle to stay in business. So for right now,
go ahead, David.
I'll just say, for now, it's nice because sort of like the benchmark for these survey prices are still high. So those that are doing everything more efficiently are just adding a bunch of profit to their bottom line right now.
Yes.
But eventually, I think the total prices of this stuff will come down since it's faster to do. So right now, profits are there for the taking. 5 years from now, it's going to be a matter of you're in business or you're not in business.
Yeah. And the other thing is now the expectation of the client has changed because the companies who are using the drones are delivering the data a lot faster, a lot more accurate, a lot more visually pleasing than the other. So if you're the survey company and not getting on board with the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, you're going to fall behind in many things that you're not going to be able to compete on the pricing. You're not going to be able to compete on the delivery speed. You're not going to be able to compete on the visuals. So the many things.
Somebody asked about Drone Launch Connect member discounts. I believe DLC members always get 30% off of every course. So this is more than 30% off. So this is a better deal at the moment. But let's say, a month from now, you want to do this, you can take advantage of your DLC discounts at that point. But this is lower or more discount than that. So, cool. Let's see what else we got. A couple people just leaving comments that are helpful or complimentary. I appreciate it. Raul, there's a guy, Guillermo Wenzel. He's been on our Drone to 1K podcast. He is in sort of like the Miami area, but he does some West Coast stuff sometimes too. So good dude to reach out to. You can go look up his podcast.
Work with him on project. Actually, David connected me with him. So,
did you do stuff with him?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice, awesome, cool. How do you sell services to construction companies in a large city or school applications? Issues with imaging and privacy has come up. Not sure what you mean about school applications. I mean, if you're working with a construction company, they should have an active construction site, in which case there shouldn't be like privacy concerns if you're giving the data to them. Not sure. Maybe you can clarify. What's one thing you wish every new drone pilot understood about turning this into a real business? I would say a lot of people get intimidated. They're like, oh, this is a lot. Like, if you just go step by step, you can learn it. So don't get intimidated. And B, people are afraid to look dumb or fail. They're like, I don't want to go out there because I don't know everything and I don't want to look like an idiot. Therefore, I'm never going to go because I don't want to embarrass myself. If you're trying to build a service business off of this stuff, you have to be okay looking dumb at the beginning. Just be honest. Hey, listen, just starting off, maybe I have these certifications. Let me do this thing. Just be upfront with people about where you are and try to make them an offer that is good for them. Try to improve yourself, make an offer that's good for them. Don't be afraid to look like a noob at some point, but do your best to educate yourself so you're not a noob, Oops. Scheduling 107 tonight for next week. Nice. Connect. Not sure what that means, but let me know. Guillermo Wenzel. I think it's Wentzel, something like that. This should be available to watch later. Yeah, we'll leave it up on YouTube for a little while. I might pull it down since it's got all this like discount information in here. And we're going to be selling this to other people later at higher prices. I don't want them to come back and watch this and be like, hey, you gave these people this discount. I want that, So we'll leave it. I'll leave it up for this week for sure. Probably will pull it down after Friday. That was to answer Robert's question. Don't know the difference between a noob and a newbie. I am referring to them as one and the same. Sorry for my slang. Same thing.
All right.
Any other questions? Cool. All right. Well, hey, guys, we'll be back on Thursday. So come with questions there. If you have questions about the program, obviously, we're going to be sending out some more emails to the rest of the email list about it with links to all the other courses and more information on the certifications, things like that. So feel free to chime back in with questions. We'll try to help out. If you're actually really serious about considering this program, you're like, I just really need to get a couple questions hammered out. I am willing to open up some calendar slots too, to chat with people for, 15, 30 minutes at a time. If you're like, hey, because I know it's like a large investment for a lot of people, like $1,200, it's not cheap. Again, if you're in this already and you're trying to like finish your education in it, I don't think it's probably that expensive for you. Maybe if you've already bought like a $5,000 drone, for instance. But if you're serious about doing this and you're like, I need to get a couple more questions cleared up, or I want more specifics, reach out to me, David at Drone Launch Academy, and maybe we can set up a time to chat. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Everybody hanging in here for so long. Appreciate you all hanging out with me and Root. hopefully sees many of you on Thursday night as well.
Yes. Good
Take
luck,
care.
everyone.
Adios.